Hi, my name is Leah, and I built something from nothing. A dream, a company, a legacy. Or at least I thought I had, for 10 years. My entire life revolved around a little tech startup I launched out of a cramped one-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle. Back then, it was just me, a battered secondhand laptop, and the kind of stubborn determination that makes you skip meals and forget birthdays. Every line of code, every sleepless night, every awkward pitch to a half-interested investor, it all mattered. And slowly, excruciatingly, it paid off. We weren't some overnight unicorn success, but the growth was real. Our products started getting noticed, small contracts turned into big ones, and eventually, I had a modest but fiercely loyal team that believed in what we were doing. People often talk about blood, sweat, and tears, but I had literally cried in that office more times than I can count. I gave this company everything. It was mine. It was me, Dot. Then came Harper, Dot, my younger sister, 4 years younger, fresh out of business school, glowing with that overly polished MBA confidence. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved Harper, or I thought I did. She had always been our parents' golden child. You know the type, straightest student, captain of the debate team, future CEO in their eyes before she even turned 16. And me? I was the quiet, introverted one who used to hide in her room and build websites for fun. They never really understood what I was doing. Not until it started making money. When my company hit its first major milestone, I thought maybe finally they'd see my worth. I expected a little pride, maybe a heartfelt, "we're proud of you." But instead, what I got was a casual suggestion over dinner. You know, my dad said one night, "Harper just graduated top of her class. You two should team up. She could bring some real business leadership to your operation." It sounded innocent, supportive even. But I felt that twist in my gut, the one you get when something feels off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Still, I wanted to believe the best. I told myself, maybe this is good. Maybe this is what the company needs. I had always been the product person, tech, vision, the gritty execution, but business ops, managing scale, that wasn't my strength, Dot, so I let her in Dot at first. Harper was charming, polished. She had a way of making people feel like they were the smartest person in the room, even when she was doing most of the talking. My team warmed up to her fast. Too fast. She had ideas, and some of them were genuinely good. I gave her space to lead. I even gave her a title, Chief Strategy Officer. It felt like a show of trust, a family thing. I thought we were building something together, Dot, but then little things started shifting, Dot. She began making decisions without looping me in. Canceling meetings I had scheduled, rewriting product timelines, based on her instincts without consulting engineering. And when I pushed back, she smiled, that perfectly rehearsed smile, and said, "I'm just trying to think long term. Leah, you've done an amazing job getting us here, but we have to think bigger now." That stung, Dot. Still, I bit my tongue, again and again, because she was my sister, because I didn't want to seem threatened, because maybe, just maybe, I was being too sensitive. That's what I told myself at night when I couldn't sleep, lying awake in a bed I barely saw because the office had become my home. Then came the dinner. The one that changed everything, Dot. It was supposed to be a celebration. Our parents invited us over, steaks on the grill, wine flowing, everyone smiling too much. I should have known something was off. Halfway through the meal, my dad cleared his throat and said, "So, your mother and I have been talking, and we think it's time to talk about succession." Succession? I blinked. "What do you mean?" My mom chimed in. "Sweetheart, you've done so well. But running a company long term, that's a different skill set. Harper has the training, the background. We think, as a family, it makes sense for her to take over as CEO. I sat there, frozen, steak halfway to my mouth. Us. My brain literally short-circuited. My company, the one I built from scratch, the one I poured everything into, they weren't asking. They were telling me. I don't remember much after that. I think I nodded. Maybe I even smiled, but inside, something cracked. Something deep. It was like I had been punched in the chest. And no one else noticed. I drove home that night in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I got to my apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the dark, heart pounding, and whispered to myself, no, not like this. I don't remember sleeping that night. What I do remember is the clarity that came. The next morning, cold, sharp, and ruthless. If they wanted a power struggle, I'd give them one. But not with yelling or boardroom drama, no. I knew every inch of that company, every flaw, every vulnerability. And if they were going to try and take it from me, I burned the whole thing down before I let them win. That was the day I started my plan. I didn't make a sound. No dramatic exit, no confrontation. I played along. I smiled in meetings. I let Harper keep talking like she was already in charge. But behind the scenes, I was moving pieces up first. I created a new LLC, quietly, one that mimicked the structure of my current company but was legally independent. I named it something harmless, something forgettable. Then I started identifying our most valuable contracts, the ones I had brought in, the ones that trusted me personally. I began renegotiating those deals under the new entity, carefully, slowly, a few percent here, a clause adjustment there. Nothing too flashy. Next came the team. I knew who my people were, the ones who had pulled all-nighters with me. The ones who believed in my vision, not Harper's spreadsheets. I took them out for drinks, for coffee. I told them the truth. Not in anger, but with calm, focused honesty. They're trying to replace me, I said, and I can't stop them. Not unless I walk away with what we built together. Some hesitated. Most didn't. Loyalty isn't bought with titles. It's earned through fire. And we had been through plenty. By month 3, I had my core team ready to go. Dev, marketing, ops, all the muscle that actually made the machine run. The day Harper called a company-wide meeting to discuss the transition, I almost laughed. She stood up there, polished and perfect, talking about vision, scale, future markets, all the buzzwords in the world. My parents sat in the front row, beaming like royalty, and me. I just waited, let her talk, let them gloat, because they had no idea the foundation had already been ripped out from under them. The revenge wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be surgical, and it had only just begun. I kept my silence during that company-wide meeting. I let Harper take the spotlight, smiling and shaking hands like she'd won some kind of award. I watched her soak in the applause from the newer hires, the ones she'd charmed over in record time. And all I could think was, they have no idea what's coming. The next morning, I walked into the office like it was any other day. I said good morning to the front desk assistant. I refilled my coffee mug. I even sat through Harper's Monday morning strategy meeting while she droned on about quarterly projections. But inside, I was counting down. 1 week. That was all I needed. 7 days to finish the final moves. I had already shifted the biggest. Contracts to my new company, all under the radar. Legally airtight. The clients had followed me without hesitation, not out of spite, but because they trusted me. They knew I was the one who showed up when things broke. Who stayed up with them at 3 a.m. fixing deployment bugs. Harper? She was just a name in the margins. Then came the most delicate part. Infrastructure. Our cloud environment, our data architecture, our code repos, they weren't just valuable, they were everything. I didn't need to take the code. That would have been a lawsuit waiting to happen. But what I could do was rebuild, and I did. From scratch. My team and I worked nights and weekends to duplicate what mattered and improve what didn't. The day we launched our new platform internally, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Pride. Not the cautious kind I used to carry around like fragile glass. This was the roaring kind. The kind that came from knowing you'd been buried alive, and instead of dying, you dug your way out and built a castle from the dirt. I didn't tell anyone at the old company yet. Not even Harper. Until I did. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. The office was unusually quiet, the calm before the storm. I walked into the conference room she'd recently claimed as her executive suite, folder in hand, and knocked once before stepping inside. She looked up from her laptop, slightly annoyed. Leah, can it wait? I'm about to hop on a call. I placed the folder on the table. You'll want to read that first. She sighed, that theatrical sigh she'd mastered in college, and opened the folder. Inside was a summary of all the major clients that had officially terminated their contracts with our company over the past month. A list that included our biggest accounts, the ones that funded 60% of our revenue. And at the bottom of the page, a single line, they've joined Mosaic Innovations. That was the name of my new company. Harper blinked. She read the page again. Her voice was flat. What the hell is this? I smiled, calm, measured. It's business. The kind you said I wasn't capable of running. She stood, paper trembling slightly in her hand. You poached them? You're stealing from your own company? I raised an eyebrow. My company? You mean the one Mom and Dad handed to you on a silver platter while telling me to step aside? Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Leaned in slightly. I didn't take anything that didn't belong to me. These clients, they came with me willingly. The team, they chose me. I didn't steal anything, Harper. I just left. And I brought the best parts with me. She looked like she wanted to scream, or cry, or throw something. Maybe all three. Mom and Dad will hear about this, she spat. I hope they do, I said. I want them to know exactly what their decision cost them. I left her standing there, pale and stunned, clutching that paper like it was a bomb that had already gone off. By the time I got to the elevator. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my dad. What did you do? No punctuation. No, hello. Just 5 words loaded with disappointment and confusion. I didn't respond. I spent the rest of that week finalizing the transition with my new team. We moved into a temporary office, smaller but vibrant, electric with the energy of people who chose to be there. Everyone was all in. We didn't have the fancy espresso machines or the massive whiteboards anymore, but we had something better. Clarity. Harper, on the other hand, she was drowning. The contracts were gone. The clients have left. Her vision was just buzzwords. Now, no product, no team, no one to implement it. I heard through the grapevine that she tried to rally the remaining employees, but morale tanked fast. People started jumping ship left and right. By month's end, they couldn't even make payroll without calling in favors from our parents. I didn't gloat. Not publicly, but late at night, when I sat alone in my new office, just a desk, a lamp, and a vision that was mine again, I allowed myself to feel it. That sweet, burning satisfaction. The kind that seeps into your bones and whispers, you did this. You took your power back. One night, a former junior dev from the old company emailed me. She was young, fresh out of college, someone Harper had always brushed off. In her message, she wrote, I saw what you did. I just wanted to say thank you. It gives me hope that sometimes the right people really do win. I cried when I read that. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt seeing Dot, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was mine, my time, my dignity. My name Dot, and as Mosaic started landing new contracts, even bigger ones than before, the calls from my parents started coming in more frequently. VOICEMAILs, emails, even a letter. They wanted to talk. They wanted to understand, but I wasn't interested in explaining anymore, not when the silence said more than words ever could. I was no longer the underestimated daughter, no longer the background noise in Harper's success story. I was the storm they didn't see coming, and I was just getting started, asterisk. 2 weeks passed before I heard from my parents in person. Was working late, again, tweaking the pitch deck for a new international client we were about to land. I was halfway through adjusting the animations when the door buzzer rang. It was nearly 9 p.m. At first. I thought maybe someone from the team had forgotten their laptop. But when I checked the security feed, I froze. It was them. My parents. Both of them. My mother was holding a tote bag, like she'd just come from the market. My father looked stiff, uncomfortable, like he hated being there, and they were standing together in front of my office. Not Harper's, not the family house. Mine. I buzzed them in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see what they would say when the illusion finally cracked. When they had to look at it. But eventually, my father did. Harper's struggling. I raised an eyebrow. She's had a rough few weeks. He continued. The transition didn't go as we'd hoped. A lot of people left unexpectedly, and some clients, all of the clients, I corrected flatly. You can say it. It's not a secret. My mom stepped forward. Sweetheart, we know things got messy, but we didn't mean for it to go this way. We thought that she was better than me. I interrupted. That she deserved what I built. That shut them up. I stood slowly and walked around the desk, my heels clicking against the concrete floor. The air felt heavier than before, as if every word they'd never the dreamer. The star, you didn't care that I spent a decade building that company from nothing. You cared that she had a fancy degree and knew how to network. She's your sister, my mom whispered. She was. Until she tried to steal my life out from under me. My dad finally snapped. That company was a family business? No, I said quietly but firmly. It was mine. I founded it. I funded it. I bled for it. You just decided that didn't matter because she looked better on a brochure? Silence again. My mom's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move. I couldn't. If I softened now, all of it, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the subtle favoritism would just start again. They would find a way to make me the villain for not forgiving. Fast enough, but I wasn't playing that game anymore. My dad cleared his throat. We want to fix this. Maybe you and Harper could merge your teams. Start fresh. Salvage what's left. Together. I laughed. It was short, humorless, almost bitter. You want me to save her? They didn't deny it. I walked back. Behind my desk, sat down, and looked at them both. Harper made her choices, and so did you. You bet against me. You wanted her to win so badly, you forgot who taught her everything she knows. My mom looked shattered. I'm not going to rescue her, I said. And I'm not going to pretend everything's fine just so you can sleep better at night. My father's voice was strained. So that's it? Yes, I said, that's it. They stood there for another moment. I could see the denial melting from their faces, replaced with something they weren't used to feeling from me. Finality, defiance, power, when they left. I sat in silence for a long time. My heart was pounding. Not from confrontation, but from freedom. The kind that comes when you finally close a door that should have been locked years ago. But the story didn't end there, because a week later, Harper showed up, not at my office. At my apartment, it was pouring rain, and I almost didn't recognize her when I opened the door. Her makeup was streaked, her coat soaked through, and for the first time since we were kids, she didn't look invincible. She looked B-R-O-K-E and I. Didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let her in, partly out of curiosity, partly out of a small, quiet hope that maybe she was finally ready to be honest. She sat on my couch like she had 100 times before when we were kids, sneaking ice cream after bedtime. Except this time, she didn't speak first. I did. "What do you want?" She wiped her face. "I messed up." I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. "Yeah, I thought I could handle it. That I could grow the company lead. Do what you did. You thought wrong." She nodded slowly. "I know. I waited. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I didn't just want to run the company," she said, voice cracking. "I wanted to be you. I thought if I could do what you did, they'd finally stop comparing us." That stopped me, because beneath the resentment, beneath all the betrayal, there was a little girl in there, still competing for the same scraps of approval I had once chased. "I didn't realize how hard it really was," she continued. "I thought the people followed you because of your title. I didn't understand they followed you because they trusted you." She looked up at me, and for once, there was no smugness in her face, just pain. "I lost everything, Leah. The team, the investors, the clients. I'm completely out." I walked over and sat across from her. "So why come here?" Her lip trembled. "Because I needed to say it. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You didn't deserve what I did." For a long time, I said nothing. The silence between us wasn't angry anymore. It was heavy, real. I took a deep breath. "Thank you." Her eyes widened, but I continued. "I don't forgive you yet, and I'm not helping you rebuild." She nodded slowly. "I understand." She stood up, walked to the door, and paused. "I hope one day you can trust me again." I didn't respond, and then she was gone. I stood there for a while, trying to understand the twist in my gut, that mix of sorrow and relief, because even though the revenge had played out perfectly, it didn't undo the wounds. It didn't erase the years of being second best in my own life, but it did something else. It proved to myself and to the world that I wasn't just a background character in someone else's story. I was the author of my own, and I was finally writing in ink. It had been 3 months since that night, 3 months since Harper showed up soaked and broken on my doorstep. 3 months since I heard anything from my parents. And honestly, it had been the most peaceful quarter of my adult life. Our new company was thriving. We'd landed 3 major international contracts, and one of them, a multi-million-dollar logistics software upgrade for a Fortune 500 company, was something I'd been dreaming about for years. The team was stronger than ever. Every meeting was sharper, faster, more collaborative. The kind of energy you only get when everyone is there because they believe, not because they're chasing a title. And me, for the first time in my life, I wasn't fighting for approval. I was building for me. Until one Monday morning, my assistant handed me an envelope. No sender, handwritten, my name in elegant cursive. I knew that handwriting. It was my mother's. I stared at it for a moment before sliding my finger under the flap. Inside was a letter, 2 pages, front and back. No apology, no excuses. Just a request. My father had been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's, and they wanted to meet one last time. As a family. At the lake house. It was the one place that still held some semblance of nostalgia for me. Summers spent diving off the old wooden dock, sneaking marshmallows from the pantry, watching fireworks on the deck every 4th of July. The favoritism. Before the betrayal, I didn't respond immediately. I didn't know how to, because part of me, a big part, didn't want to go. Not after everything, but the other part, the smaller, quieter voice that still remembered what it felt like to be loved, even conditionally. That voice said, "You should go, if not for them." For closure, I told my team I'd be offline that weekend. No phone, no emails. Just me, a car, and a long drive into the past. When I arrived at the lake house, everything looked the same and different. The shutters were peeling, the flower beds overgrown, the dock sagging slightly under the weight of time, but the porch light was on inside. My parents were sitting on the couch. My dad looked older, frailer. Like someone had vacuumed out half his energy. My mom, she looked the same, just more tired. Like all her fights were finally catching up to her. Harper was there too. That surprised me. She stood up when I entered, but didn't move toward me. "Hi," she said softly. I nodded. My dad cleared his throat, that familiar rasp in his voice more pronounced now. "Thank you for coming." I sat down, arms folded, unsure what I was doing there. My mom spoke first. "We didn't handle things right. Not with you. Not with the company." I didn't reply. "We thought we were doing what was best for everyone," she continued. "But the truth is, we were scared." That got my attention. "Scared of what?" I asked. "Of losing control," she admitted. "You were so independent, so capable. We didn't know how to support you without feeling useless." I blinked. Of all the things I expected them to say, that wasn't on the list. My father leaned forward. His hands trembled slightly. I spent years telling myself that pushing Harper forward was strategic, smart, but really, it was easier to guide someone who listened blindly than someone who challenged me. That hit me hard. I had spent years thinking I wasn't enough. When in reality, I was just too much for people who needed to feel in charge. Harper spoke next. "They asked me to come because they wanted to fix things, but I told them I couldn't do that for them. Only you could decide if this chapter ends with silence or something else." I looked around the room. The people who once made me feel so small now looked smaller than ever. Not because they were weak, but because I wasn't afraid anymore. I took a deep breath. "I'm not here to pretend nothing happened," I said. "And I'm not here to make you feel better." They all nodded. No protest this time, but I am here because I want to stop carrying the weight of it. I've built something incredible, and I'm proud of it. You don't have to be part of it, but you will not take that pride from me. Tears filled my mother's eyes. "We don't want to. Not anymore." I looked at Harper. "You have to rebuild your own future, not mine, not theirs." "Yours," she nodded, her voice shaking. "I will." We didn't hug. We didn't cry and promise to be best friends again, but something shifted. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was trying to climb out of a hole they buried me in. I felt free. Later that night, I stood out on the dock alone. The water was still. The moonlight bounced across the surface like shattered glass. I thought about the girl I used to be, hungry for validation, desperate for recognition, willing to dim her light just to be accepted. And I whispered to her, the past version of me, "You were always enough." They just couldn't see it. But now, the world saw. My team saw. I saw. And that was more than enough. Asterisk. The peace didn't last long. 2 weeks after I returned from the lake house, I got a call from Liana, our head of legal. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the edge in her tone, the kind she only used when something serious was brewing. "We have a problem," she said. I was in the middle of preparing our keynote demo for a massive investor showcase. The last thing I wanted was legal trouble. "What kind of problem?" I asked, trying not to jump to conclusions. "Trademark filings. Someone just submitted a registration using your original company's name, the one you founded, the one you left behind." I frowned. "So what? It's a dead company." Leon had paused. Anyway, Harper. I was silent for a beat too long. Then, you're sure? Leona's voice was flat. I triple-checked. She's using a shell corporation to file the documents, but the trail leads back to her. And Leah, she's trying to take your legacy and repackage it like it was hers all along. Something inside me snapped. The part of me that had almost forgiven her. The part that had pitied her on my doorstep. The part that had believed, just for a moment, that maybe she had finally changed. It wasn't grief this time. It was fury. Cold, clean, focused. She wasn't just poking at the past. She was coming. For my future, I called an emergency meeting with my top execs that night. We didn't wait for morning. This wasn't just a reputation issue. This was war. We spread every document Harper had filed across the table, cross-referenced her investors, traced her new team's LinkedIns, and what we found made my blood boil. She had recruited 2 of my former junior developers, kids I'd mentored, trained, and promoted, and pitched them a fresh opportunity to build something of their own. She was using old marketing language from my original brand, subtly twisted just enough to sound new. She was even copying design elements from our old UI. Brazen, shameless. Calculated. I should have known. The tears, the apology, maybe part of it was real, but clearly not enough to stop her from doing exactly what she promised she wouldn't. And this time, I wasn't going to walk away. No quiet exit. No graceful surrender. If she wanted a war, I would give her one. The next day, I scheduled an accidental run-in. Harper had been attending a private founders mixer hosted by a VC group downtown. The same one we'd been approached by 2 weeks prior. So I went. Dressed in sleek black, hair pulled back, sharp heels clicking across the marble floor. She didn't see me until I was 10 feet away. Champagne flute in hand. Her face blanched. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I leaned in close and said, just loud enough for her to hear, I let you go once. That was mercy. You try to touch what's mine again, and I will ruin you, publicly, strategically, permanently. Then I smiled and walked away. 2 days later, our legal team sent a cease and desist. We had her dead to rights. The trademark filings were not only infringing, they were timed after our new contracts had gone public. We had a paper trail, internal emails from former staff she poached, and best of all, screenshots from an investor call where she directly used my name and old company as a pitch reference. We didn't just shut her down. We dismantled the illusion she had tried to build, the myth that she was the architect, not the thief. It worked. 3 days after we filed the lawsuit, one of her angel investors pulled out. Then another. Then her lead designer publicly apologized for being second time in a year. She had lost everything, but this time, I wasn't left holding the pieces. I was holding the pen, controlling the narrative, and I didn't feel bad about it. Because forgiveness is one thing, but trust, that has to be earned. And Harper had burned that bridge with gasoline and a match. Still, late that night, I stood by my office window, staring out at the skyline, a glittering reminder of everything I built, of how close I'd come to losing it twice. I wasn't naive anymore. I knew there would always be people like Harper, people who smile with knives behind their backs, people who can't build, so they try to steal. But now I had something stronger than fear. I had proof that no matter how many times they tried to cut me out, I would come back stronger, because I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was a force, and I'd finally learned the most important rule in business and in life. Don't just protect what's yours. Be willing to burn down anything or anyone who tries to take it. A month passed. The lawsuit was over. The judgment had gone in our favor. Harper had been barred from using anything remotely resembling our brand. our product. Even our language in her pitches, most people assumed it was over. Security footage showed a delivery runner, probably third party, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses. No real way to trace it. Inside, a USB drive and a note typed in courier font. You think you've won, but you don't even know what I've taken. My blood ran cold. For a second, I stood frozen, the office noise fading into static. Then I took the drive straight to our head of cybersecurity, Adam. He scanned it in a sandboxed environment. No viruses. No ransomware, just files. A dozen folders, all labeled with the names of my top developers. Inside, recordings, transcripts of one-on-one, Zoom calls I'd had with my team, private team meetings. Old script tweaked to twist my words. It was psychological warfare. She couldn't beat me with investors. She couldn't take my team. So she was going to destroy my reputation from the inside. I sat there in Adam's office, jaw clenched, heart pounding, as I listened to a mangled version of myself say things I'd never said, or at least not that way. It was brilliant, and it was terrifying. I knew immediately what she was doing. She wasn't sending it to the public. She was sending it to me. A message. This was a game of psychological chicken to see if I'd panic, lash out, make a move that could damage my credibility for real. But she made one mistake. She thought I was still the girl who begged for permission, the one who needed validation to feel real. Wasn't her. Not anymore. I didn't say a word to the press. I didn't threaten her back. Instead, I the fake recordings, paused to explain what was edited, showed the timestamps, the metadata, all of it. I exposed her not to humiliate, but to inoculate. When I was done, I said, "You don't owe me your loyalty, but you deserve the truth. Every single one of you. I won't run from what she's trying to do, and I won't lie to win this fight, but I will stand. And if you're standing with me, then let's make sure no one like her ever gets a foothold in this industry again." The room was silent, and then applause. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic. It wasn't slow and swelling. It was real. Earned. And one by one, they nodded. I single quotes deep built this company on transparency, trust, and grit. Harper's tactics weren't just desperate. They were relics of the old world, the kind of world that rewards snakes and punishes builders, but that world was dying, and I wasn't just building a company anymore. I was building a legacy, but Harper wasn't done. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my old professor at Stanford. He'd mentored me during my final year, helped me shape the early prototype that became my first product. A brilliant man. Always fair. Always honest. He was also on the board of a major tech ethics council. "Leah," he said, his voice low, "I wanted to warn you. Someone submitted a whistleblower file about your company, alleging hostile work practices, predatory IP theft, claims you manipulated your sister into a mental breakdown to steal your clients." I sighed. "Let me guess. No name source." "Anonymous," he confirmed, "but the file is heavy. They compiled fake emails, faked testimonies. It's well put together." I closed my eyes. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a campaign. Harper had gone full scorched earth. She didn't want to win anymore. She wanted to make sure I lost. But what she didn't realize is that every time she tried to burn me down, she taught me how to fireproof my future. I didn't waste energy denying the claims publicly. Instead, we submitted our own internal transparency report. We let our employees share anonymized feedback online. Our Glassdoor score went up. A few of our team leads started posting hashtag FI or EPROOFED under our posts, a quiet inside joke that turned into a viral tag. Suddenly, we controlled the narrative. Again. And Harper, well, she ran out of allies. Her final investor publicly withdrew support after our transparency campaign went viral, and just when I thought the storm was finally over, Something happened I didn't expect. Harper emailed me. Single line. You still don't get it, do you? No threats. No attachment. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time, my cursor hovering over the delete button, but I didn't delete it because I did get it. Harper wasn't trying to win anymore. She was trying to prove a point that she was inevitable, that people like her always find a way to climb back in. And maybe, for a moment, I believed that. Until the very next day, when I got a call from a journalist with Tech Today. We're running a feature on women who built empires. From Betrayal. You're the cover. I froze. What? I said, blinking. You've redefined female leadership in tech. Not just because of the company, but because of how you handled the attacks. Your name's become shorthand for resilience. Everyone wants to know how you did it. That's when I realized. Harper was inevitable, but so was I. And in the end, the difference between us wasn't talent. It was integrity. She tried to tear down everything I'd built, not because she wanted to build her own, but because mine was a mirror she couldn't look into without hating her reflection. And I kept building anyway, because the best revenge isn't just success. It's proving they never even had the power to stop you. It was a Tuesday morning. The office was unusually quiet, not tense, not dramatic, just still. Like the air before a storm. I was sitting in my corner office, half reading the profile Tech Today had just published. It was everywhere. Front page. My face. My story. The woman who outbuilt Betrayal. And I should have felt elated, victorious, but I didn't, because an hour earlier, I'd gotten another call. This one from an unknown number. And for some reason, I answered. Leah. The voice on the other end whispered. It took me a beat to recognize it. Harper. But she didn't sound defiant this time. She sounded broken. Please don't hang up, she said quickly. I know I've ruined everything, but I need your help. I didn't speak. I didn't even breathe. I got a letter, she continued. They're suing me, not just for breach, for fraud. The last investor I had. He's pressing criminal charges. I'm going to lose everything, Leah. I blinked slowly, emotionless. You already did, I said coldly. No, she said, her voice cracking. This is different. They're going to bury me. Not just financially, legally. I'll never work again, and I know I deserve it. I do, but please, if you could just talk to him. Or I cut her off. Why would I save you? Silence. And then barely audible, because I'm still your sister. That hit harder than I expected. Because for all her lies, all her manipulation, the betrayal, the theft, the psychological games, some part of me had once loved her. Maybe still did. In that deep, painful way you never quite shake. But I also remembered the drive, the fake recordings. The sleepless nights, staring at my ceiling, wondering if I'd built my empire on ground that would eventually collapse beneath me. Please, she whispered again. I don't have anyone else. I closed my eyes and I made a choice, not because she earned it, not because she deserved it, but because I was done letting her have power over my peace. I'll make a call, I said. She gasped. But not for you, I continued. For me. Because I don't want to spend the next 10 years watching your face dragged through the headlines, getting messages from reporters asking for my thoughts. I don't want you in my life, even in absence. So I'm going to cut this off clean. She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I hung up. And then I didn't make the call. I didn't beg. I didn't plead. I offered a deal to the investor. Pressing charges, one I knew he'd take. I paid the damages quietly, anonymously. And in exchange, Harper agreed to walk away from tech. Permanently. She signed a non-compete. A public apology. No interviews, no memoirs, no platforms. No side, Projects under a fake name. She was done. Officially. Irrevocably. Some of my team didn't understand why I did it. A few were angry, said I let her off too easy, but what they didn't see, what only I knew, was that Harper's real punishment wasn't legal. It was silence. It was knowing the world had moved on without her, that no one feared her name anymore, that she had become exactly what she'd always mocked, forgettable. Didn't forgive her. Not in the way most people think, but I forgave myself. For loving her, for trusting her, for letting her inside the world I built. And then I moved on. Because revenge is intoxicating. It's fire and fury and validation, but peace is freedom. Months passed. Our company grew faster than we ever expected. New markets, international clients, a second office in Berlin. We hired our 100th employee. I stood in front of them all, smiling, full of pride, and as I looked around the room, I realized something powerful. They weren't just building my dream anymore, they were building theirs. That's when I knew the war was truly over. Harper could never have created this, because what we built wasn't rooted in ego or control. It was built in resilience. In truth. And fire-tested loyalty. And that can't be stolen. It has to be earned. Every damn day. So if you're watching this and someone tried to take what's yours, your idea, your voice, your future, hear me now. You are not powerless. They might underestimate you. They might betray you. They might even take everything, but they cannot erase who you are. And if you stay focused, stay sharp, stay relentless, not only will you rebuild, you'll make them regret ever thinking they could break you. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't payback. It's becoming so powerful they can't even touch you anymore. And I've never felt more untouchable in my life. Asterisk if that gave you chills. You know what to do. Smash that like button, drop a comment below telling us your most satisfying revenge moment. And don't forget to subscribe for more real life stories that prove karma always comes full circle. Thanks for riding this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the quietest revenge is the one that echoes forever.